Welcome to another Outsider Review. My name is Pat and I've got Luke behind the camera, and we've got the 2025 Nissan Frontier. A little bit of a refresh. Now, it's not a full refresh like they did a couple years ago, and we actually reviewed that vehicle that Luke behind the camera owned, and he said that he would buy it again when he, at the time. It's actually a long-term review since he's had it for 4 months. Luke, overall, would you buy it again?
Yep.
Well, there you have it, folks. So he was definitely a big fan. So we were very excited to get the 2025 refresh. So because it's freezing cold, I'm going to get right into it. So they refreshed a little bit of the front fascia, so you can see that they had the black grille go all the way down as opposed to having some body color in between. Plus they added some non-functional nostrils. Have you seen the new Pathfinder that we reviewed last year as well? It's the same kind of front fascia look. Everything is LED. So the trim we have today is the Pro-4X Luxury. But what really matters in this truck is what's underneath the hood. So underneath the hood, I've got a 3.8 liter V6 that puts out 310 horsepower, 281 pounds-feet of torque through a 9-speed transmission. One thing that's to note for the torque, for horsepower, max horsepower is at 6,400 RPM. So that's a little bit higher than usual. If you're going for max towing, it's capable of towing 6,850 pounds. So that's a 500-pound increase from the previous year. And payload is 1,259 pounds. For the model we have with us today, so the Pro-4X towing is 6,680 pounds. And payload is 920. So that is a little bit subpar when you're considering payload. 0 to 60 time is around 7.3 seconds. Not like you would buy a pickup truck for 0 to 60 time. Fuel economy, something that's a little bit more relevant, 19 miles per gallon or 12.3 liters per 100 kilometers. Now, something that's pretty interesting about the Pro-4X that we have right now, so all of the trims, all the Frontier trim, sorry, you have the front skid plates come standard, but the Pro-4X you also get the transfer case and fuel tank skid plates, which you're definitely going to need. So this is Nissan's more off-road worthy version. And one thing I do love about this is these tires. Now, I would love to have bigger tires for sure for an off-road version, but these are on 17-inch wheels, and they completely redesigned the rim, as you can see, and I love it. I love the fact that they have this part right here that's a little bit out, and it says Pro on it. Definitely a dedicated wheel and pretty cool color as well. Tire sizes 265, 70, or 20, and they would come with all-terrain tires if it wasn't in the winter. So we have ice contacts from Continental tires because we're in Quebec and we absolutely have to have winter tires. One thing also that's to be noted, so for an off-road vehicle such as this one, 9.5 inches of ground clearance is a little bit on the low spectrum. When you're comparing all the trims, you got SV, SL, Pro-4X, and then Pro-4X Luxury. In the United States, you guys have a lower trim, a lower base trim, which is the S. So this being an off-road vehicle, it's got a little bit more modified suspension. It's the Bilstein off-road suspension. Furthermore, you do have 360-degree camera, so that's pretty good. You got keyless entry access, so you just touch a button, unlock both doors, and essentially Pro-4X badging over here. Looks pretty cool, and I love this orange color. I apologize that the ice is a little bit in the way, but that's about as clean as I could get it this time of the year. Now let's go check out the back. Okay, here we are in the back, and there's a couple of aesthetic changes over here. So we've got the blackout portion over here, which is a cue they got from the Titan. In the back, we also have all the attachments and everything for towing and everything. And in the towing specs, it's about, average, I would say, compared to the other ones, maybe a little bit on the lower side when you compare it to the Ford, for example, the Ford Ranger. But I think it's plenty of towing capacity for this segment. Once you open it, You got a dampened open a little bit on the fast side compared to others. You don't have anything to like clamp or anything like that, so that is something. And also I'd like to mention right away is that it's halogen lighting for the cab, and I kind of wish a lot of manufacturers would switch that to LED. Comment below if you agree with that. Also, I want to talk about the railing system, and it's got 4 tie-down hooks. So the railing system and the spray and bed liner, this all comes standard. So that's one thing that I think a lot of people are going to choose Nissan for, is that there's not all these packages that you have to add on. So you get, you know, a lower price, and then by the time you add the packages and you spec it out to what most people would take would be tie downs, spray and bed liner. And this actually has the railing with the movable cleats system, which is actually really good. By the time you get to that point, you're like, oh my God, it adds up pretty quick. But everything is standard with the price. So as you go up in trim, you get more features, obviously. But the spray and bed liner and what you see here, the railing and everything, that comes standard, which is pretty good. We also have a 120 volt outlet over there. It's pretty good, pretty handy. And you can change it, configure to the whole bed. You can get a 6-foot bed. So in the mid-size truck segment, not everybody gives you that option. So you have a 6-foot bed, and you can have a king cab and a 6-foot bed configuration, which I think a lot of you guys are gonna find it handy. And lastly, we do have LED lighting in the bed. It's just that one. That one's halogen. And comment below if that annoys you. All right, let's go inside because I'm freezing, and so is Luke. So in the back, you have different configurations. So I could have the seats somewhat flat here, and I can also lift them up and slam it so it stays like that. And you have a little bit of storage as well. So you got a 60-40 split. This one also goes up if you needed to. They both do the same things. And now, just gonna, here we go. Put it back down. I'm gonna have a seat. Okay, so you're looking at 33.2 inches of legroom, which is not too bad, especially for the segment. It's basically on par with all the other competitors. I think I have okay enough room, but as far as headroom, I'm only 5'9", and I have about an inch left of headroom. I also have a 120 volt outlet over here, very handy. USB-A and USB-C. Kangaroo pouch. Cup holders. Very good sized cup holders too, so you can fit a big gulp in there, no problem. And this being the Pro-4X with the luxury pack, not package, Pro-4X luxury trim, I do have leather seats, and I like the nice orange stitching that you can see, and the perforation also with the orange in the back. I think it looks pretty cool. All in all, I have a little bit of stitching as well on the door, but overall, it's a fairly basic door. It's got a lot of plastic to it, which you would want in a truck, in my opinion. Now let's go check out the front. So here we are in the front seat with the heat on, thank God, because it's well colder than -20 today, and I actually had to call to make sure the car wash was open, because sometimes they close at this temperature, and she says, okay, yeah, I'll open it right now because it was closed. But you guys don't really care about that. It's more about the truck. So one thing I do like about Nissan is buttons. You have buttons. Not every truck manufacturer now is giving you buttons, so that's pretty cool. And it starts down here. So I have my diff lock, so it does have a rear diff locker, and you got your cargo lamp, which, you know, it's halogen, as well as your towing modes and such, and your hill descent control. So I've mentioned that it doesn't have a trailer brake, so that is one thing that some people have mentioned they wish they had. But you have the buttons over there, as well as an analog screen with some digital information in the middle. You can see my fuel economy is at 12.5 liters per 100 kilometers, and that's basically what you're gonna average out, give or take, miles per gallon right down there, and which is going to be around 18 and 19 miles per gallon. Initially, I found that was a little bit on the high side for fuel economy, but turns out it's basically on par. So I'll talk a little bit more about the drivability, about how it compares to the other vehicles, such as the Ford Ranger, we're talking about Chevy Colorado, let's not forget Toyota Tacoma and such. So as we go on, I'll make some comparison, especially at the end. Buttons, again, over here, nothing too out of this world. It's all the same. So you got your cruise control on the right and everything from your source of music and selection and phone calls. And it feels really good. I like the stitching as well on the steering wheel, and the leather wrap steering wheel feels really good. Now this is where we have updated from the 2024 to 2025. And when I did my review of the 2023, I literally said this was outdated, and that's where they updated it. And also, I also watched already a few reviews on this truck, and they mentioned how it's updated to a 12-inch screen. However, when you look at what we can use right now, it's essentially the same size as the previous model. So perhaps they need to update the software a little bit more. But when you do go on Android Auto, then bam, you can have the full usage. So you get the maps and everything. It takes up the whole screen, which I like. And most people, let's face it, are either going to run Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which just has wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Definitely nice. And I love this. The stenciled out Frontier in orange looks really good. So they really did a good job updating everything. But here's where I go with the but. So camera, when I go for the camera, again, we're limited to what the old screen size used to be as far as camera views, and the camera quality is a little bit lower than what I get from other manufacturers. So I don't find their quality to be that great. I do have 360 camera, but you can't get it to take the full screen, which has got to be a little bit of an aggravation when you have this nice big screen. It would have been nice if they would have maximized the use of it. Same thing with when you go back to your menu and such. But Android Auto, full screen, no problem. Down below, again, hard knobs and button for HVAC controls. And over here, I have my 2-wheel drive, 4 high, and then 4 low. I do have rear diff locks. That's on the other side. I already mentioned those. And your auto on start stop. Now, from my point of view here, I'm going to grab the camera from Luke here just to show you guys this, because I find this kind of annoyances. Luke told me, because he owns a 2023, or he did, he traded it in, but that's another story, that this didn't annoy me. But for me, when I'm looking, I'm like, push stop, and I keep pressing the auto on start stop. So if you own this vehicle, please tell me if that was an annoyance at the beginning, because the start stop button is over here. I just find that's a little bit concealed from my point of view. I do see this button here, but I don't see the start stop from my point of view. Now, yes, you can telescopically adjust the steering wheel and everything, but this is actually like my comfort zone. I see this, I don't see that. Comment below if you've had any kind of encounter with that, or if if that sounds familiar to you. Over here we have heated seats, so heated seats, not ventilated seats, USB-A and USB-C, parking assist, and heated steering wheel. I also have a little bit of storage here. I like how it's rubberized and stuff. I put my sunglasses here. I particularly like the orange handles here. Really cool that the orange accents all over this vehicle looks really nice. And the storage here, and I got my wireless charger here, and the shifter, just a traditional shifter, nothing really to talk about. And that's what I like about the Nissan, or what maybe some truck owners might like as well, is they use the KISS rule, right? Keep it simple. There's another S, I'm not gonna say it, but it's basically keep it simple, and that's what they did. This is a truck that feels like a truck. Sure, it doesn't look as techy as before, but it doesn't look outdated anymore with the screen. It has all the functionality you could probably ask for. Good sized cup holders, and the seat comfort is really good. I like also the look of it with the Pro-4X stitching back there, but the seats are very comfortable in typical Nissan fashion. I still have a sunroof, something that not all manufacturers will give you the option for. The Ranger that we had last year didn't give you an option to add a sunroof, so even Ford didn't give us that option, and here it is with the Nissan Frontier. Also, this being the luxury trim, so you get the nice fancy seat and such, but you also get the Fender sound system, which is okay. I'm kind of a big advocate of, I don't like brand sound system. I find that the stock ones do just fine. Fender sounds good. That's basically all I'm going to say about that. Now, before we go for a drive, let's talk about the big elephant in the room, which is the price. So it ranges between $50,000 to $60,000, depending, on which trim you go with. But here's what I found from doing some research here, because I have some comparisons when I'm comparing all the specs. I'll go through it right now. As far as horsepower, this is a bit on the low side, but it's, on par with the Colorado, for example, and it's not that much of a difference for horsepower I'm talking about. Between the torque, however, is a completely different case. So in torque, if you look at the Tacoma, it's around 400 pounds-feet of torque, and they're all above 400 except for the Ranger. But the Ranger, you could also get, the Raptor, which is going to give you way more torque anyways. So the thing is, it's a little bit on the low side of torque, but driving it around, as you're going to see when I start taking off, it's not really an issue. And especially merging on highways at highway speed, this V6 does the job. I have plenty of power in this vehicle. Towing, so at the maximum, you're looking at 6,850 pounds for whatever trim of Frontier you go with. And for us, it's 6,680 pounds. So that actually falls a little bit below, except for the Tacoma Hybrid. That one's 6,000 pounds, so it beats the Tacoma. But if you're looking at the Colorado and the Ranger, they're both over 7,000 pounds. So 7,700 or 7,500, so well above for towing capability than this vehicle. Payload as well. I already said we're below 1,000 pounds of payload when everybody else is above 1,500 pounds of payload. So that is quite noticeable here. They really need to work on their payload. Fuel economy, it kind of does in the middle of it all. I mean, you got the Ranger that does really good, and the hybrid Tacoma that also does really well. And that's one thing that you don't have drivetrain options. So you have the 3-liter V6, but that's it, right? You don't have hybrid options like the Tacoma offers. Ford offers different kind of options. You can go for a 4-banger if you want. Colorado, it's just a turbo, but that one's about 13.1 liters per 100 kilometers. So they kind of all range, and this one would be kind of in the middle for fuel economy. But when it came to price, when I did my research as far as price goes, I found that, first of all, entry-level trim has a lot of features, but it's also more expensive than all these other competitors out there. But when you get to top spec trim, this one becomes a little bit more value. It offers you quite a bit. And it comes out maybe undercuts maybe most of them by $1,000 or so. So it's not as noticeable, but you have to really price out what you want. If you want the Pro-4X or if you want a Pro-4X luxury, and then spec out these other competitors, and you have to add packages, which kind of annoyed me when I was doing it. So I kind of stopped writing all the specifics of it because I think the video would be too long. But in the end, the top trim is the more valued purchase for Nissan Frontier. Now let's take it for a drive. 310 horsepower, 281 pounds-feet of torque. Pretty good. Let's see how it sounds. Sounds pretty good. I like it. I like the V6 rumble. I'm in all-wheel drive just so I could get decent acceleration in the snow. Otherwise, any pickup truck in these kind of snowy conditions are just gonna spin, right? Okay, in a week of driving this vehicle, I've already done well over 300 kilometers. I'm almost at 400 kilometers so far this week, and a lot of it was on the highway. I think 300 of it was like on the highway, so 100 of it was in the city. And my fuel economy was at when I was on the highway, it was around 11.5 liters per 100 kilometers. And since then, I'm at 12.5 liters per 100 kilometers. I find that a little bit on the high side. I know that when I was driving the Colorado and the Ranger on the highway, they did much better with the fuel economy. Overall, this is what a truck should feel like, and when you're thinking about a truck, that's what it feels like. Because having driven the Ford Ranger, which I thought was one of the smoothest, but the suspension kind of had a lot of movement to it, as opposed to this one would be completely on the other side of the spectrum. They have a more stiff suspension. I already talked about the Bilstein suspension system. It's an off-road suspension, but usually off-road suspension are kind of geared to be a little bit on the softer side to absorb this, and this one is kind of a lot more rigid. So it definitely you feel the bumps, right? It bounces like a truck, and that's kind of what I was thinking when I was driving it, right? So now I'm back in two-wheel drive and on dry road. We can just punch it a little bit, and it's definitely got less kick as far as off the line, because it's a naturally aspirated V6. That's what you can essentially gather from this review. Is from all the other trucks I've reviewed. I have reviewed the Tacoma, I have reviewed the Ranger and the Colorado, and essentially all those will have more kick off the line. But when it comes to highway speed, power, I feel like this one kind of gives me more confidence in its acceleration. Having driven this on the highway, I can tell you that, soundproofing is pretty decent. Seats are very comfortable. I've already addressed that to the comfort side of it. I have 360 camera, so visibility is really good as well. Personally, do I view this as a vehicle that you would literally take off-road? I mean, I would take it in definitely some trails and stuff like that. I don't think I would do some major off-roading with the Frontier, but I think it's very successful in being an everyday truck and doing truck things. The fact that you can get a 6-foot bed, definitely handy. Towing is good, not best in class, like I've mentioned, but it's good. It does everything really well. But here's where I'm at, why I might find this more appealing. I've talked about the value side of it, how a lot of the stuff is standard when you go up in trims, and you don't have to add packages. And as you go up, when you come to the Pro-4X, it becomes a very good value. And moreover, has to do with the V6. It hasn't been changed in quite a long time, sure, but I view that as a good thing for a truck. Most people that buy pickup trucks do not change it every year. It's not one of those things that you would change yearly, because pickup trucks, one, retain their value very well. Reliability is where I'm going with this. In today's market, where everything has a turbo, everything has been updated. We know how even Toyota's having issues with its pickup truck since they've refreshed it, whether it's transmission wise or transfer case or engine issues and all that stuff. We have a naturally aspirated V6, old but faithful. It's gonna keep it going, and I think that's gonna help you for reliability status here. This is what I'm looking at, is this gonna last me a long time? And I gotta look at this truck and be like, this is a truck which could have a lot less things go wrong with it. So let's go right into my conclusion as we go out here. I said in last year's video, this was outdated, and they updated it. Very good job. Thank you for listening to me. I'm pretty sure I had zero input in that, but thank you for listening. And my pro, right off the bat, reliability. Naturally aspirated V6 does the job. Also, power output. This is a pretty powerful, it feels like it's more powerful than the specs I read out. it feels like it has more horsepower than that 310 horsepower that's listed on the list. That's just how it feels, and it sounds really good. Also, they use the KISS rule, keep it simple, and that's what a lot of you guys have said like about the Frontier, is that it's simple. It's got knobs, it's got buttons. I don't have to control my headlights through a screen like some vehicles are doing now. They kept it simple. Now to the cons. The payload has got to be better. It's under 1,000 pounds for this truck. Not good enough. It's got to be better. And lastly, there's still some updating that you guys need to do. The screen here, how you don't utilize the full 12-inch. Now, again, it doesn't bother me. I just tap on Android Auto and I'm good. I'm more than good. This looks really good, but it doesn't look good when you go into the menu, right? And it doesn't look very good when your backup cameras are only utilizing the same screen that was in the previous model and not the full 12-inch. Those are my cons. You can write your pros and cons below, what you guys think about overall Frontier, especially if you're an owner. I value your feedback quite a lot, since you guys live with these vehicles and I only have them for a week at a time. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe just to help grow this channel. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did not, comment below. If you did, also comment below. Any comments help, really. And on behalf of myself and Luke, thank you for watching our videos, and we'll see you in the next one.